problem is kind of tricky. Make sure you know how to use compasses, which is kind of weird. So I'm going to start just with that, making sure you understand how, what this problem kind of means. So it says that the jet leaves the runway with a bearing of north 32 degrees east. And so basically what that means is this green line here is the direction that the jet is heading if you consider the origin, this middle, to be the runway. And I know that because when you measure these degrees, you start on the y-axis. So since we're starting from north, that means we would start here and we would rotate 32 degrees towards the east, since that's the direction we're heading. And wherever you end up is the pathway that the jet would follow. So once you've rotated 32 degrees, draw a line heading that direction, and that's where it went. Similarly, if you're looking, I'm going to skip the rest of this here down to the bottom. When it says south 58 degrees of east, what that means is you start south, you start at the negative side of the y-axis, and you rotate towards the east 58 degrees. And so you end up with this blue path. Okay, rotate, end up there, and that's the direction the jet would head. So that's the two directions the problem is giving you. The tricky part is here, though, that it didn't start at the runway both times, right? Both of my lines start there at the origin. It's telling you that after it traveled 3 miles, so I'm going to add that in here, after it traveled 3 miles in the green direction, it turned 90 degrees and headed in the blue direction. So this blue line shouldn't actually start at the origin. It should start up here where the green line leaves off. And the jet traveled in that direction for 4 miles. So that's our setup here. And then at this point, at this very moment, this black dot, poorly drawn, is where the jet ends up. And the question is, what is the bearing of the jet from the runway? And so I'm going to make that this pink color. So not how long is that line. If you know your Pythagorean triples, it'd be 5 miles. But what is the bearing? And so again, since we're measuring from either north or south, I'm going to start up here at the north, and that means I want to rotate. I'm starting at the north just because the pink is closer to the north than it is south. And I want to rotate from the north until I get to the pink line. And I want to know how many degrees that is. Well, we know part of that. We know that this first little section here, from the north to the green line, we already know that's 32 degrees. So the only thing missing is the rest of this. How many degrees are there between the green and the pink line? There's not really any easy way to do that, but luckily we were told that the plane turned at a 90-degree angle, which makes this a right triangle. And a lot of the basis for calculus is trigonometry, so that's how we can answer this question. I'm going to call this angle, instead of question mark, I'm going to call it theta, common variable for angles. And you can think back to our trig ratios, thinking which trig ratio would relate the two values I have, the 3 and the 4. It just so happens in this case that if I'm looking at theta, the 4 is my opposite side, the 3 is my adjacent side. The ratio that connects those is tangent. So I could write the tangent of theta is equal to 4 over 3. Now I know that, but I want to know what theta is. To solve for that, we have to use the inverse tangent, or the arctan. So I would have theta equals the inverse tangent of 4/3, which when you put that into your calculator or another software, turns out to be about 53.13 degrees. If that's not what you get, make sure your calculator software is in degrees mode. Make sure you're using tangent inverse with a little -1, not regular tangent. Okay, now that's actually not the answer. Keep in mind, that's only the degrees between the green and the pink line. We need now to add that last step, add that on to that 32 degrees, and see what we're given, or what we end up with. So if I take that theta and add on 32 degrees from that initial bearing, we should get about 85.15, or rounded about 85 degrees. And keeping it in the same notation, we would put north 85.5 degrees of east. It's crappy handwriting, but that's your answer. I hope that helped, Elle. I'll see you next time.